and welcome to episode 55 of PauseCast. It is, it's Thursday, September the 14th, 2017. I am Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Mark Hanna, I use he, him. Welcome.
Hi, Mark.
Hey.
I have spent a week with a science fantasy, kind of space opera thingy. Destiny 2 has been treating me very well this week. I imagine XCOM has been treating you well.
XCOM's been interesting.
I'll let you get into it in a second. I'm just trying to think of a way to introduce the show. Oh God.
It's always a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I've gotten tired of just saying, "Hey, video games."
That's basically the gist, though. Hey, video games. Yeah.
Hey, guys, it's video games. Hey, video games. Yeah, this is a show about video games, and we do this every week. Mark, what have you been playing this week?
I've been continuing playing XCOM 2, and I've kind of gotten over the hump with it. I talk about the XCOM games like every episode, even when I'm not playing them. And I always complain about how it just continues to ramp up and up and up and up.
Right,
and just get harder and harder to go on. But of course, eventually they're going to run out of content. Your weapons only get so strong, the enemies only get so strong. You're going to get to the point where, you've researched everything, all the enemies have been thrown at you, the game stops getting harder. And I kind of haven't hit that plateau before, but now I have, and it turns out when you get there, it gets really easy, as in like unchallenging easy, which is disappointing. So what's happened for me is, I've mentioned that one of the new features in the DLC is you can send soldiers out on covert ops, and it's kind of, they'll go off for a set number of days and then come back. And each time there's a risk involved, they might get wounded or ambushed, which sends you into a little mission where you have to get into an evac zone. And sometimes there's a risk they'll be captured. You can usually negate the capture risk by sending in a tiny amount of supplies or assigning an engineer to the mission or something. And I had this point where I had just upgraded all my weapons, and I had 22 supplies left, which is not many. You normally have like a few hundred. Mm-hmm. And it cost 25 supplies to negate the capture risk. So I didn't quite have enough. And I set off two of my best people, one of whom had really good gear because there was an ambush risk. And I wanted them to have that available. And when I say really good gear, this is, I killed one of the new bosses and you get some unique gear. They had 3 pieces of unique gear on them, and they got captured.
Ooh.
So that was kind of annoying, and I've known from the previous 2 soldiers I've had captured that what tends to happen is you wait a while, some new covert missions come up, and one of them is, get intel to find out where your captured soldier is. Once you've done that, there'll be a mission to get them back. I've waited 3 in-game months now, and it hasn't shown up yet. Oh, it's really annoying. So, I could go and finish the game. I've just been wanting to get this stuff back before I do it, and I haven't been able to do that. So, the Doomsday counter is on 1 blip out of, and it starts on 4 blips. It's the Doomsday counter is lower than when it first gets introduced at the end of the tutorial. So I'm in no danger of losing the game that way. The missions now are all, I'm just breezing through them because I've got a lot of people who are fully ranked up, got the top tier equipment. So none of the missions are really throwing a challenge. If I want to challenge myself, I send in 2 people or something, or don't give them very good equipment. Even then, they've got so many skills available to them. Even my lowest ranked people are getting up there now. I'm just kind of waiting to get this person back so I can go and completely destroy the aliens. And it's interesting because the pacing, I've had a problem with the pacing of XCOM games before, and now I've got the exact opposite problem at the end. And it's kind of frustrating. So, a tactics game, I think possibly the first tactics game I played, which sort of got me into the genre, was Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on the Game Boy Advance. And that worked really well just because, it had a story, but it kind of was made that you could just ignore the story, keep wandering around and doing fights, and it would try to balance them for you, and you could just keep going. It didn't have that constant drive forward like XCOM, which meant that it wouldn't be able to peter out at the end. It also had the advantage of, everything has levels that will increase their stats, rather than XCOM has got tiers of things, and you get to the top tier, there's nothing above that. But yeah, so I'd love to be able to, in XCOM, just stick around and keep having challenges. But it looks like it's constantly getting harder until it gets really easy. So, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm playing on the default difficulty, maybe a higher one would be better suited to me, I'm not sure. But yeah, so although I've still been enjoying it, it's been less fun than the last couple of weeks have been with it.
You're kind of out of that like honeymoon phase with it, and now it's kind of you're kind of into like settling in, and things aren't quite as exciting anymore.
I guess, but like I still haven't completed all of the new content. I think part of this is that I'm just annoyed at having that soldier being captured and not being able to get them back. I should just continue on with the game, finish it, and start a new one on the higher difficulty. Instead of prolonging this for myself.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I want that closure of that captured soldier.
Well, I've also been playing a bit of a tactics game. I actually made it into, I'm into a part of Fire Emblem Awakening in which I've not seen this. I'm at fresh content now. I'm up to chapter 22.
I think you'd finished that game.
No, I have never finished Fire Emblem Awakening, which is my great shame.
So, that I got up to the point where it sort of opens out, that I think is about halfway through the game. Mm-hmm. And about how much further than that are you?
So when you said it starts to open out, can you remind me what you mean by that?
Oh, this is where all the kids come back in time.
Oh, right, okay. So, end of the first half, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess a lot of my experience with this game has been kind of limited by the fact that I didn't end up getting a lot of S-rank bonds. And that's on me. That's on my planning. But I didn't end up with a lot of S-rank bonds, so I didn't have a lot of the extra missions and stuff that you can go do.
Though I'm pretty sure if you get them after that point, the missions still show up, don't they?
No, yeah, they do. They do. I just, even after that point, I still haven't managed to get any S ranks.
Oh, right. I kind of focused on it. I was playing Matchmaker early on, knowing this person's going to go with this person, this person's going to go with this person.
Right.
I wasn't super creative with it, though.
I was, I've reached a kind of interesting point with that game, though.
Yeah?
Because, during one of the, final few missions... Mm-hmm. It brings forth probably one of the most significant challenges that game has to offer, in which it throws 9 generals at you, not the unit class generals, but what one of the enemy leaders calls these are 9 generals from our army, have fun, and they're all different classes and stuff like that.
So they're unique heroes kind of thing.
they're unique characters and stuff, all of them.
Right, yeah.
Which was a very interesting battle. And the point that I reached with that was this feels like it's actually a significant enough moment that I lost a couple of soldiers on the way and I didn't instantly reload because I was oh my god, that's so that would be meaningful.
Yeah.
I've brought these units to this point, and now we're at a point where it's I've just lost 2 of my favorite units, and it feels like this really, really meaningful moment. And so I've stuck with that save at this point.
Yeah, it's not just a random battle against some nameless undead.
And now the end is in sight for me as well.
Yeah.
Because there is 24 chapters, I believe, in that game.
And you said you were at 21?
22. So 22. I have 3 more encounters to go, including this one.
That is very close.
So I can bring this to the end, I think. It's been a good bus game. I've been enjoying that as a bus game.
Nice.
I've been kind of wondering about how well some of the like Baldur's Gate stuff would work as a bus game too, because that's
Is that
available on iPhones.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I like if I wanted to, I could buy a copy of like Planescape Torment and Baldur's Gate, and I could have all of these on my phone. And I don't know how well they would play, but it's been like this thing that's like, oh yeah, it's like a lot of reading and stuff, and I think that would feel good as like a bus game.
How's the chunkiness, I suppose, like the episodic nature of doing those encounters with bus trips? Like, is it about the right length for your bus ride?
Usually. And when it's not, like, the bookmark system is probably one of my favorite Fire Emblem features.
Oh, right, that's when you can save in a battle and it chucks you right back in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, you can save at any point if you're playing on if you're playing on the new difficulties, but if you're playing on Classic, which I am, then you can only save using those bookmarks or between chapters. You can't just save at any point in a battle.
So, okay, I might have misunderstood what the bookmarks are then. Can you explain it to me like I'm 5?
Yeah, so the bookmarks, if you load that save that you create using a bookmark, it will delete itself the second that you load it.
Ah, right.
So it's a one-time use save.
Right, so it's not for save scumming, it's just for when you need to leave and come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
It's perfect for classic difficulty and a really smart decision in like a handheld tactics game.
Yeah.
Just like, oh yeah, I'll just suspend myself here really quick. And then I can come back and I know exactly where I am. It is a bookmark. It's intended to be kind of moved as you go.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It does sound like a clever design decision. And it means that you can't just go and load and then, oh, it didn't work, and then load again.
Yeah. And that is, like, meaningful in a game like Fire Emblem.
Yeah, for sure.
I've also been playing Destiny 2. I won't spoil this at all. Past Homecoming. So, if you've played the first mission, you're fine. Or if you played during the beta, you're fine. All I will say is don't let people spoil that story for you. It's really good, and it wraps up in a way which I found immensely satisfying and just tremendously cool. And
Did you finish the main story now, right?
I have now finished the main, what was called the Red War situation, or Red War story. So that's all done. It's kind of cool because the Red War is intended as like a one-time run thing. This is a minor endgame spoiler, just really, really minor mechanical one. After you complete the campaign, you can talk to one of the main characters and get what are called meditations, which allow you to revisit certain missions and get extra rewards for them.
Does it mean you can replay the story stuff through that?
Yeah,
as well?
you can replay. It's intended as like you can replay this part of the story and like reflect on its role in your journey. Is what it's contextualized as.
That's a nice way of doing it, actually.
Yeah, and it's a certain set of missions, and it rotates out every week. I believe is when meditations reset.
Oh, so you can't just go, I want to replay this part of the story. You can replay this or this part.
Reflect on specific parts of the story.
Okay.
Which is like, it's a cool way of framing that. I haven't done any of those yet, but like I've just kind of figured out what those do, and they sound really neat. And I'm excited to give those a shot. Yeah, Destiny 2 is really good. Would recommend.
I'm interested to hear how you've been finding the lore aspect of it compared with how Destiny 1 had handled it.
So, the lore is in the game, and honestly, like, I haven't been paying a ton of attention to the lore. I've read a little bit of it. But I haven't really been paying too much attention to lore proper, because the writing in the game itself is good enough that it actually conveys the story this time, unlike the really, really threadbare stuff that was in Destiny 1.
I was having an interesting discussion with my brother today, he's really into the Destiny lore, and he was telling me how he'd actually figured out the raid setting before it happened, or something about that.
Right.
So a raid has just come out, and I think, if correct me if I'm wrong, but all that was known about it ahead of time was the name, which is Leviathan.
I believe that is correct.
And he had looked at... So he had a couple of friends who brought the collector's edition, and he looked at the concept art there and found, oh, there's a piece of concept art here that's not in, like, outside the collector's edition. And another piece of concept art he found somewhere else that was, like, related to that, and they're both, like, worms devouring something.
Okay.
One was a big one with a city on its head. It looks like it was about to eat a planet. And the other one was like an old-timey picture of one eating a town with he told me it was the Cabal worshipping it in the foreground.
Okay. We should not get too much deeper into the lore because I guarantee...
I could not.
I guarantee there are people here who, like, that is a major spoiler for them because they've put together pieces.
Okay, that's
of
fair.
The lore.
Should have put it more of a warning. I'm going to go a little more into this because he also found, if you don't mind actually, because I'm spoiling this for you as well.
I don't mind too much because I'm not deep in the lore, but yeah, just like be mindful, listeners. We are going a little into Destiny 2 lore really quickly.
And this is stuff that he'd figured out before it happened, but it's out now. So he had found an area on one of the planets where there's kind of a glitchiness and you could see through parts of the skybox.
Okay.
And it turns out that when he stood in this place, there's that giant worm. It's in the sky. Oh, shit. Like with its mouth facing towards where you are. And apparently, today, now that the raid is out, look, that giant worm is in the sky of that planet.
Huh.
So he'd figured out, like, that's going to be the setting for the raid. He was telling me about some other stuff that I don't fully remember and wouldn't trust myself to relay accurately. But it was interesting to hear how he'd figured that out from all the pieces they provided, and he just had the name to go on as well as that.
Yeah,
and then get vindication when it actually happened today.
So the raid also, it launched today. It was beaten in 6 hours. Was how fast the first team was to clear through this raid, because it's like an extensive piece of content, and it's a lot of puzzle solving. They played for 6 hours
to finish a raid. Wow, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it launched at like 5 a.m. I think. Our time, and then
makes sense with what I've heard.
The first fire team finished it at about 11:30.
They must have been ready to go then. If it's 6 hours worth of content, and they finished it.
Yeah, no, it would have been. It was like a handful of fire teams who were like ready to go out the gate. They knew when it was going to launch. They knew when all this stuff was going to happen. I saw a video posted from within Bungie of them watching the first fire team clear the raid, and just like the energy in that room was really, really great. I'm so excited that Bungie is so invested in Destiny 2, and invested in seeing all of this stuff do well, and seeing all this. Yeah, they're so invested in this fucking game. It's really good. I'm excited to see where it goes as we continue to see Destiny 2. It's good.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool that they were watching that, actually.
Yeah, they had, like, they were watching 4 people kind of simultaneously. They had it on, like, a split screen.
So as if they didn't know who was going to be first as well?
Yeah, they were watching for the, like, very first fire team to complete it.
Must be interesting seeing people approach these puzzles for the first time, because, again, I haven't played Destiny, but from what I remember hearing, particularly about the first raid for Destiny 1, is they suddenly stopped holding your hand and telling you how to do things. And you had to figure it all out. I'm guessing it's been a similar case for this raid?
Yep. Ash was telling me earlier today, because she attempted part of the raid, there was some difficulties within the raid group about figuring out kind of the mechanics of one section, and it took them about an hour to get through, because like there is a specific way that this section worked. Yeah. The raid is a substantial piece of content. I'm really excited to give it a try. This will be the first time I'll be able to give, like, any of the Destiny raids a shot.
So did you not do any in Destiny 1?
No, because, like, I came into Destiny 1 really late, and getting together a fire team is hard, because
it's 6 people, right?
It's cat herding, is what it is. You have to herd cats.
It's especially when you might have people overseas who you'd play with, and they've got different time zones and work schedules and stuff to all sort out.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, just it's a total cat herding situation.
Yeah.
Also this week I've been playing some Hitman.
Have they had any more of those one-time only things? Have you tried any more?
No,
of those?
those have ended for the season.
Okay.
I imagine so they can focus on season 2 of Hitman.
Oh, a bunch of new content.
Yeah, like a whole new game, presumably. New
wow.
episodes and stuff like that. There's a rumor it'll be pretty deeply tied to this first season.
Deeply tied as in, like, you have to own the first season or something, or?
No, as in, like, a lot of elements of your progress will carry over, like your general mastery experience.
Okay.
Will all carry over and then give you additional rewards in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously a new set of elusive targets and such. But yeah, no more elusive targets in Hitman right now. I've just been playing it for the heck of it because there's a few episodes that I haven't beaten, and it's a really, really fun game to stream, as it turns out.
Nice.
And you get a lot of just completely wild stuff that happens. I was walking through the basement of one of the levels, and like this weird ghostly voice echoed out. It was obviously like an NPC, and it was like obviously a bug, but like it sounded like they were in like right next to me for one line, and then they just vanished. It was the weirdest thing. There was also just a moment where like I had just knocked somebody out, and then their guard came into the room. They didn't see me because I was behind the desk, and then I threw a coin to distract them, dumped the body, and left the room.
And they didn't even notice.
They didn't notice. It was like honestly one of my favorite moments I've ever had in like any game. It was just so deeply funny. Coin is OP. Don't nerf it. Like that coin is so good. Yeah, that's a really, really good stream game. I've been having fun with it. That's kind of been my week in games.
As always, it's more varied than mine.
Actually, there is one more game too.
Yeah.
That I want to talk about, and it's Dying Light.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So you said you'd finished the campaign for that now, right?
Yeah, I finished that last night, and that game is really good still. That boss fight is still the worst still, just because it's a quick time event. It's like Shadow of Mordor.
Or Uncharted 1, yeah.
Does Uncharted 1 just end with a QTE?
Yep.
Oh my god, what?
Yep.
I remember Uncharted 2 actually ending with like a proper boss fight, and maybe that's like...
I mean...
And Uncharted 3 too, and both of those like colored my expectations maybe of Uncharted 1, because I absolutely don't remember.
They had a bunch of combat leading up to a quick time event.
Right, which is exactly what Dying Light does.
Yeah.
There's like a big chase through the sewers and
like
a lot of volatiles.
Cinematically, it's cool. It's just not fun to play.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
One thing, were you playing through that on your own?
Yes.
Because when I last played through that fairly recently, it was with my flatmate, and it's interesting because it's the one point in the game after the point right near the beginning where, you know, for the first bit you can't do multiplayer yet until you get to a certain point. But the final mission...
Yeah, the final encounter has to be played solo.
Yeah, it kicks you out of any multiplayer sessions. You have to do it on your own.
Yeah, I remember reading the notice about that at the beginning.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because like I'd get ahead of him, and then I'd die, and he'd catch up, and he'd get ahead of me, and then like we'd keep dying and catching up, and then at the end it's like a race to see who can successfully complete the whole quick time event the first time. Because, you know, we'd keep failing it because it's a quick time event and they're crap.
Yep.
And like I'd think, oh, I'm gonna get it, and then oops, no, that was supposed to be a different key, and then I'd think, oh crap, he's gonna beat me, but no, he pressed the wrong one as well. We both died. Let's do that same little thing again.
Well, the good news is I have access to bounties and stuff, which is actually like, it seems like an interesting system. You can only do one at a time, and they give you rewards of different types. Like you can get bounties that'll give you extra power, and you'll get bounties that'll do extra agility, stuff like that.
I suppose the thing you want is to max out one of the trees so you can unlock that. Sorry, to max out one of the trees so you can unlock that. Was it called the legend skill tree or something?
Yeah, the legend skill tree, and it ties into that. Like, it ties into that really well because it doesn't just reward you with like survivor rank or generic XP. It actually rewards you with like, oh yeah, you honed this skill over the course of that. Here's a small booster to it.
Yeah, it's got some interesting things. The one that I think I actually have 1 point of it in one of my saves. And one thing you can do is get like 8 times unarmed damage. So through the whole game, you can put your weapons away and just punch zombies. It's a bad idea. It doesn't do much. But with this, it'll do something. You know, it's not like an in-game weapon, but you can use your fists. And then you can keep putting points into that and getting it better and better to get it up to, you know, some useful point. It reminds me very much of the Paragon levels in Diablo 3, where, yes, you've reached max level, and now every time you level up, you get to just increment one of your stats a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, here is, speaking of weapons, a little earlier there. So here's something interesting that I noticed, because I was playing earlier in the week with my friend Nathan, and we noticed he's legend level 33.
Oh, wow.
And I was I was level like 18 or so. So like base levels, not even not even the nice ones. Not even the legend, just base levels, level 18, level 19 maybe. And he was legend level 33. So what happened was we found out that when we were fighting a handful of enemies, they all had weapons, right?
Are these human enemies?
Human enemies that all had weapons.
Yeah.
And we defeated them. And I was like, so I've defeated all these guys, and they've got like 500 damage gear for me. What are you getting? And as it turns out, he was getting gear that was like upwards of 2,000, stuff that's more appropriate for his level.
Oh, I thought...
He's actually like getting... like they changed the outfitting of those same enemies that we both saw to have completely different gear for each other that was like correlating directly to our levels.
That's really interesting, because I'm pretty sure I've noticed that, if the two of us beat up one of Rise's men and then I pick up his weapon, it'll be gone for you as well. Whereas, if I open a police van, we both get weapons that we can both take. So it's interesting that it's shared loot, but different for each of us. I suppose does that mean perhaps that he could pick up the really good weapon and then drop it, and you could pick up the really good weapon that you couldn't?
Yeah, it does, I think. I think that is ultimately what that system does mean, but it also more, like, I guess in a more balanced way, means that drop-in, drop-out co-op is 100% viable, because you will always get stuff that is appropriate for your level.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, it happens a lot when you don't have shared loot, and it's a lot easier to see how it's implemented. I'm surprised that they do it with shared loot. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I thought that was like the fucking smartest thing I've ever seen for like a game that's intended for drop-in, drop-out co-op. Like, I was thinking of other examples, and like Destiny uses individual loot pools. It'll always drop stuff to your level, but it's not using a shared loot pool.
Yeah.
Borderlands is all beholden to levels. So
is
drop
Borderlands
in,
shared
drop
loot?
out.
I can't remember.
I don't know that it's shared loot, but drop in, drop out co-op isn't possible in quite the same way as it is in something like Dying Light, because it's so beholden to you being an actual like level,
right?
And so like it doesn't allow for quite the variance that Dying Light does, where Dying Light would allow you to play with, like, have a level 1 character, and you could have someone who is legend level 33 come into your game, and you would still have a totally seamless experience.
Yeah, I mean, you could take a level 1 character to the end of the game, and they would be slower, but if you give them a better weapon, they can still whack things just as hard with it. They won't be able to do it for as long, but it's kind of they've separated the skills from the equipment. So, your level doesn't change your damage output. It just changes how long you can swing the weapon before you get tired, kind of stuff.
Quantum Dot in the chat says, the one weird thing is I never found a gun that was better than the one we found at the very beginning through the story, no matter what. Yeah,
the guns in that game were very sort of flat in terms of ramping damage. It was interesting.
Yeah, I have a fixed, like, sorry, all the guns have like a fixed value. I have found guns that are more powerful, but they exist kind of on a flat plane, which is like it's super weird.
Although for the most part, it doesn't matter how strong the gun is. If you shoot someone in the head, it works.
Yep. I did actually find. You remember how we had those goons in our game?
Yep. There are some that take more than one headshot later on.
Yep, the mutated goons, which were actually added as part of the content drop.
Yeah, I noticed the announcement, but I probably just wasn't observant enough to notice when I was actually facing them in game.
Nathan has joined us in the chat as well. Raylix808 in the chat says, you know what's weird is that I have a legendary engraved semi-auto shotgun that while I was playing yesterday had a damage value of 5120, but after gaining a few more legend levels, it now does 6100.
I think the highest damage I've seen is in the 700s, so that's a lot.
Yeah. But legend levels will fuck you up.
So I'm guessing those legend levels, because it's been a while since I looked, but I remember that they can be increase damage with certain weapon types and stuff, so would it perhaps be that? Are there...
Maybe.
Can you put points into increasing weapon damage, maybe? Or gun damage specifically or something? But yeah, wow, those numbers are way higher than anything I've seen while I'm playing.
It kind of makes me wonder if damage is fake.
I mean, at a certain point, aren't you just killing all the zombies in one hit?
Well, no, because even though I have 500 damage and stuff, I kill enemies in about the same time as I was when I was level 1. Maybe a little bit faster and a little bit more violently.
Oh, no, I've definitely noticed. Beginning of game, you're whacking them with a table leg 15 times in the head. End game, I am cutting 3 heads off at once with a sword. It definitely gets easier to kill them.
It definitely does get easier, but it still feels like it takes a decent chunk of time. And yeah, part of me wonders if damage is kind of fake in Dying Light, so that it can have that seamless experience of oh yeah, I hit them and I did this much damage and they're bloodied, kind of like a D&D damage status. Oh yeah, I've bloodied this one and I've taken off 50% of their health, but if I were to hit them a few more times with the table leg, it would do smaller chunks of damage, but it's still doing a percentage that is scaled to my exact experience.
I don't know if that would really work, because the only time you see the damage numbers is when you're looking at the equipment. They don't have health bars, and they're not
that's
damage
what I'm saying.
Pop up.
Maybe that's fake. Maybe it's actually just always kind of take away a percentage or so.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that is the most likely explanation, and that's kind of how that co-op can work so seamlessly.
Maybe.
Just that, they could have percentage values rather than actual, this does this damage and it will always kill this type of enemy. But instead,
I can see it if, from your perspective, this thing has got 500 total hit points and you hit it and you take off 200. And from someone else's perspective, it's got 1,000 and they keep it at the same proportion. When you deal damage, it'll take off, twice as much because it's got twice as much health. But when they hit it, it'll deal whatever damage they deal to it. Maybe that's something like that. So it scales to each of you independently.
Destiny tries to keep its time to kill quite similar for all of its enemies by just kind of scaling down how much damage you do.
Right.
As you get more and more powerful than enemies in certain areas, it'll just it'll be oh, we need to push you down just a little bit here, and you'll do less damage, and then when you go into an area with more powerful enemies, you'll just notice you're doing way more damage.
Okay, that's interesting. So you don't just suddenly one-shot everything when you go into a low-level area. Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of I think Fallout 3 also takes this kind of weird dynamic leveling approach. There's a point to which things are getting more powerful, but when you go back, you never really feel like they've gotten any less powerful or easy to kill, or sorry, harder to kill rather.
Yeah,
they just feel about the same. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Nathan says, it's always felt to me that the damage values of weapons in Dying Light are somewhat arbitrary. Obviously, higher damage values will kill zombies faster, but the actual range in which a weapon will one-hit a zombie is vast and not easily measurable.
Yeah,
it's...
Sounds fair.
Dying Light's kind of weird and dynamic, and I appreciate how it tries to handle everything that it does intelligently. Like, it's super cool. All right.
Right, I've got a question for you.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
Do we have anything in the inbox this week?
We actually do. So, in the inbox this week, we have a question from Aladrain. And Aladrain asks, do any of our listeners play Fortnite? Fortnite's a kind of like fort-building survival game, which is interesting. They're doing like they're doing a battle royale mode where you can also kind of build up fortresses dynamically, which is interesting. You're dropped into the world with a pickaxe to start like gathering supplies, and you'll find stuff for your gun, but you'll also be able to build up buildings, as far as I understand, in that mode.
So, what platform are we talking?
PS4, Xbox One, PC.
Okay.
I think it's in early access right now. But yeah, if any of our followers or if anyone's playing it, you should send us an email and let us know what you think of Fortnite. Because I'd be interested to learn a little bit more about it. I've heard some interesting things about it.
God damn it! I googled it and I was about to click on the link before I read but a fortnight is a unit of time equal to I know it's 2 weeks. Damn it, Wikipedia! I should have seen that coming.
Ah. Oh. Let's get into some meat here.
Yeah?
We're gonna have a big meaty discussion about something that kind of pissed me off as a community manager this week.
Okay.
For those who don't know, I do community management for a clan called Feminist War Cult, and we're like a Destiny-focused clan. And, we gotta have people who run the show and kind of help keep things organized, help the community itself keep organized, run social. And that's kind of my job, is kind of keeping the pieces together. And it is not infrequent for games to also have community managers. You have people who are running support, and you have people who are handling all the kind of behind-the-scenes reporting stuff. So, Overwatch today released a developer update, and this was called Play Nice, Play Fair, and they were talking about community toxicity in this video. Now here is what gets to me. I gotta try and keep myself restrained, because like I said, this is the sort of shit that really pisses me off as a community manager. First and foremost, they play this kind of like, they play a few like ignorant stances that are like really, really toothless when it comes to dealing with online toxicity. And one of those is, why can't we all just be nice? Which was like an official stance that they took as a development team, just like, hey, why don't we all just be nice? Like, I get the idealism there, and, I can respect it, but also not how you deal with community management. You don't just tell people to play nice. If there's problems, you have to deal with them. Another stance they took as an official development team was, okay, this is where it starts getting into stuff that really pisses me off.
Take a couple of breaths.
They also said, hey, so, anonymity is a big cause of why we feel like there's a lot of toxicity. It's like,
Is that why no one's a dickhead on Facebook?
Yeah, is that... Have you ever
Sorry.
been on Facebook? Blizzard? Hey, has anybody at Blizzard been on Facebook recently?
Wait a minute. It's not Blizzard that requires you to have a real name attached to your account, is it? Is that something else?
They have that as like an optional thing. You can attach a real name and like add people as real ID friends and stuff, and they have some policies around getting your name changed in that system.
Right.
Which are like gross and transphobic. So if you put stuff in and then later decide, oh yeah, I need to change my name to make it accurate to the name I use in everyday life.
You can't change it.
You can't change it without ID, and that's an expensive and sometimes painstaking process to have to go through, especially if you are trans. And then here's the final bit of like weird, bad, explicitly bad, toothless stances that they took in this video was that, this is paraphrased, but, essentially their stance boiled down to, we are wasting development resources on implementing reporting tools and handling community toxicity, and we would like to be building nice things, but you as the community are like ruining our resource pooling here. So why don't you just play nice, and then we can make nice things for you instead of having to implement reporting tools that existed on the PC for ages and ages on consoles almost a year and a half later, with like people saying, oh yeah, toxicity is a major problem in this game on consoles. You need to fix it. And no reporting tools, and now they've finally done it a year and a half after the launch of the game, where PC has had this feature from launch. It is the shittiest approach to community management I've seen in a long goddamn time. It makes me feel so bad having, like, even played this game at this point, because it shows this unwillingness to actually deal with community toxicity, and rather than them being this authority figure which is actually dealing with the problem like they should be in an online game like this. You should have a community management team that is dedicated to this, and not someone that is like not resources that are, quote, being pulled away from developing nice things. You should have a team that's dedicated to just handling reports and stuff like that. And Blizzard is a big enough organization to know this. It is endlessly frustrating to see all of this be put onto the community as a whole, and just be like, police yourselves, come on, be nice, rather than actually taking tangible action and giving a shit about their community.
To some degree, I can see where they're coming from, because if and it's obviously not going to work like overall and fix everything, but if you say, hey, stop being shitty, this is why we can't have nice things, hoping that, okay, maybe some people will stop being shitty because of that, but obviously that can't be the only thing they do. You've mentioned a couple of things in there about what they should be doing, but that's what I'm mainly interested in hearing from you, I think, is what do you think is what would you have wished to have seen from them instead?
Some goddamn teeth, I think, would be my first kind of want. Like,
is there a particular set of reporting tools or anything, or is it mainly that they need more people who can handle the reports and stuff like that, or...
So, the reporting tools themselves are fine. You choose a category and you can fill it in with more information. I don't know what they end up seeing on the back end, whether they can replay that whole match, including voice chat, etc.
That's fair.
So on the end that we see an actual reporting tool, and you choose a category and you can fill it in with various questions. or sorry, with various like information, just like,
Yep.
oh yeah, so we chose this category, abusive chat, and here's some details. This person was using racial slurs in the chat, and being a dick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then you file off the report, and as far as you know, like nothing. You don't really get any updates about reports that you send or anything like that. It just kind of floats off into the ether, and it says your report has been successfully received, and then you never kind of know.
Anymore.
Yeah, you never know what kind of happened there.
So you said that this has been in place on PC for a while,
Yes.
but you just can't tell if it's actually worked there or not because you never
exactly.
know.
You can't tell if it actually works.
Because I think you mentioned me before the show. They've said, "Oh, we've handled this many, we've dealt with this many accounts through or something," but that doesn't really tell you if it's working, right?
Yeah, it really doesn't. Nathan points out in the chat, they do notify you if disciplinary action was taken against an account. That's a recent addition, as far as I understand. And they don't exactly, like Nathan also just points out now, they just don't say exactly what that meant, whether it was a chat ban, game ban, etc. Like, it's a step. It's come really, really late. And even that, I don't know if that's implemented on consoles either. I don't know if console players have the same kind of power. Apparently they're working on that, but yeah, they say they've taken action against 330,000 accounts based on reports, and a total of something like 400,000 accounts.
Sorry, what was the first number?
330,000 roughly. Accounts have had action taken against them.
Okay.
But that can mean anything. That could mean like a 5-minute ban. Like, that's meaningless. Quantum Dot points out in the chat as well, without feedback, it's difficult to continue to motivate folks to report if you don't really think anything has been done. That was something that Jeff Kaplan said in the video as well. Jeff Kaplan is the director of Overwatch. And he said, oh yeah, I've heard people say, just don't use the report button because it doesn't do anything. And it really, really does right now feel like it doesn't do anything. Updates are a good starting point in that, but also just having more people to deal with this stuff, having a larger and more dedicated community management team who is focused on, dealing with these sort of reports. And yeah. But right now, though, their stance of, play nice and you're ruining this for everybody else by taking away development resources it exposes this kind of shitty underlying problem with the mentality of that team right now. I don't think that's a good place for them to be, and I don't think that's a good stance on community management for them to have. It feels like they actively don't give a shit about their community rather than passively not giving a shit about their community. And that is that is a shame.
Something you just said in the middle there reminded me of another recent shitty thing. Man, gaming needs some better role models. What's that huge YouTuber who used a racial slur in a stream
PewDiePie.
recently?
Are we getting into this?
We don't have to, but like,
okay, we can get into this.
We can if you want to, but it's just gross. What kind of? Don't do that. It's
here's
thing
what
to do.
happened.
Ugh.
Here's what happened on a stream of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. PewDiePie, who is 57 million subscribers on YouTube, said the N-word out loud in a stream. And then immediately, like, I want to be clear about this as well. He said the N-word, like, in response to someone hiding behind something, was like, what a fucking N-word. And then he said sorry, as if he, like, knew he shouldn't be saying that, and then corrects himself to what a fucking asshole. So, two things. One, Austin Walker has a better take on this than I ever will. Go find Austin Walker's thread on that. I will link the start of that thread in the show notes. But Austin
that a
Walker
Twitter
has
thread?
Pardon?
Is that a Twitter thread?
Yeah, it's a Twitter thread.
Okay.
I'll link it in the show notes. Austin Walker has a better take on this than I ever will. So I'm going to direct you to him, a black man, rather than me, a white woman who would be talking over black people. Not my place. I don't do that. I will also point out, Patrick Klepek had a response to that thread, which I thought was very, very, very good, that I want to just recall for you, and I'll link this in the show notes as well. One's internal thesaurus for hate tells you a lot about what they actually believe. And so you can see where that kind of goes and how you can see the association builds between like what kind of person PewDiePie thinks that, like what kind of people PewDiePie thinks black people are, just by nature of how he replaced a racial slur against black people with this other word, asshole.
Yeah. And the fact that it was a word he went to in the first place.
Yeah, there's like...
Like, if you can do that unthinkingly on a stream, I bet he does it casually.
Oh, yeah. Unquestionably.
You don't accidentally use a word you don't ever use.
Yeah, no, like... I will be completely honest. In a recent moment in which I was deeply, deeply frustrated with a game that I was playing, off of any sort of public communications or anything, I was talking to Ash about this, and I used a word which was like an ableist slur to describe the performance of the team, and I consciously thought about it, and I had to I had to think, I know this is not the right word to be using, but I just can't think of anything else to describe it. It was it was unfathomable to me, but I had to really think through how I was using that word. Again, I know that it was totally inappropriate of me to do so, but I actively struggled with it. And so for someone to say it in a setting which is public and very off the cuff, that I think reveals a lot about what they're saying when they're not on the camera.
I agree.
Quantum Dot points out in the chat as well, if folks haven't listened, I highly recommend the Waypoint Radio episode on this as well. Yeah, Austin Walker is on that show. I will find that episode number really quick.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Another comment in the chat about how that guy is just actual trash overall. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep. Just PewDiePie's total trash. Episode 95 is the episode number. And yeah, they address this whole discussion in full. I would highly recommend giving that a listen. It's a great episode of that show. That whole show is really great. Yeah.
Is there a positive note we can switch back to before we finish? I don't want to end on a low note.
Yeah, no, I don't want to end on a low note either. This sucks.
Well, actually, I've got the perfect thing, because it's what we normally do as well. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, that's a good way to end the show. That's a good transition. Good job. You saved the show, Mark.
Yes.
Are we at that time yet? Oh my god, we totally are.
Yeah, that's how I bring it up.
Wow. Okay. This week I'm looking forward to more Destiny 2.
Nice. You're going to try that raid if you can?
I need to get my power level up quite a bit more before I
Okay,
can.
so that's about
actually
getting more loot now, right? Or are you still not at the max level yet?
So I'm at the max level. I'm just not at the max power level, which is the you have an average attack and defense value across all of your weapons and armor.
Mm-hmm.
And so mine is around 235 right now. And the recommended level for the raid is between 260 and 280.
Okay, so a bit higher.
So yeah, quite a bit higher actually. Mm-hmm. It's gonna take a while, but I should be getting some decent loot. I found a few guns that I'm really kind of gelling with, and so I'm probably gonna hang by those. Mm-hmm. One is actually like a. No, that's spoilers. I'm not gonna get into that. No, okay. It's serious. That's some spoilers.
Okay, yeah. I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Yep. I've stuck with the base Titan class that I've used basically as much as I can too, which has been I think really fun.
Nice.
I really like how that class kind of handles because it's the one with the Captain America shield.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I love playing Sentinel Titan.
Awesome.
I know a lot of people are playing Sunbreaker and a few other things, I think. Sunbreaker and Striker are kind of the most preferred Titan classes, but I really like this new one.
I think it's the one that my brother's playing as well, actually.
Yeah. Off topic, Nathan, I don't have any commands in my chat. I don't have any bots running. Yeah, Destiny 2, and I also managed to get a copy of Rainbow Six Siege. So I might.
That's one of the Tom Clancy games, isn't it?
It's one of the Tom Clancy's. It's a little bit like Counter-Strike kind of situation.
Okay,
Highly tactical.
I haven't played any of the Rainbow Six games.
This one is like a 5 versus 5 kind of small maps.
It's PvP.
Yeah, it's one of the Tim Klimbo games. I made it. That is in reference to a Photoshop I made like ages ago, around when the Division launched, because I couldn't get the phrase Tim Klimbo's The Divimbo out of my head, and so I made a fake version of the cover which had Tim Klimbo's The Divimbo on it, and I posted that. It got some attention online. It was good.
Got it out of your head by putting it somewhere else.
Yeah, I got it out of my head by putting it somewhere else, and now it's kind of infested a few people's vocabulary surrounding that game and around Tom Clancy. So, I mean, that's a positive outcome. Good times. Yeah, I've got that and that Destiny 2 and maybe exploring some more Dying Light. I might get into the following. I might do that.
I haven't played any of that yet either.
Yeah, I was actually thinking maybe I could get you and Ash and Nathan all together and we can go do the following.
Yeah.
Sound like fun?
Yeah, we should give it a shot.
Hell yeah. How about you though? What are you looking forward to playing this week?
Well, now Dying Light the following.
Crushed
it. So I plan to finish my current playthrough of XCOM 2 and probably start a new one on a higher difficulty. I've kind of noticed I've gotten pretty good at predicting the way the enemies will react to my stuff. So it's like, if you flank them, they'll move before they do anything else. And little things like they seem to act independently a lot. And I expect if I have the difficulty, as well as they'll probably get better aim and stuff, hopefully they'll start doing some more interesting tactic stuff themselves. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I tried a high difficulty at one point in XCOM 1 and they started using some new tactics and combinations of skills, which was more interesting. So I probably should have done that from the start here, but I didn't. So, But yeah, so those are the things that I'm looking forward to playing.
Sweet. That actually just...
Yeah, I hope that I get that bloody captured soldier at XCOM back as well, but honestly I should just finish it either way, because I'll be starting again.
It did actually make me think of a thing.
Yeah?
That I noticed just in terms of like AI behavior in Destiny 2. I noticed that when you're within range of certain enemies, they actually have if you pull a sniper rifle on them, they actually have the knowledge to like see the sniper rifle and realize what you're doing and go hide. Which is very frustrating when I'm just like within range and I'm like, oh, they're going for cover. That's something that was not a thing that they did in Destiny 1. Oh god.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I've had to adjust to like actually going out to a distance and being out of their range or out of their visibility so I can actually snipe them.
Yeah, like there's one thing in XCOM where if you can manage to, if the enemies, none of them can see you, but they know they're under fire, they bunch up a whole lot and become really vulnerable to explosives because of that. Mm-hmm. So there's some things I've noticed that kind of give me a really easy time, because there are some soldiers have abilities that can make them go back into hiding, right? So long as they're not flanked. So you just do that and then wait, and all the enemies will run together and you throw a bomb at them. Kind of the opposite of running for cover when you pull out equipment.
Mm-hmm. Alright. So that is the show for this week. Thank you so much for listening, if you have tuned in to this point. If you like the show and want to support it financially, you can do so by going to bit.ly/PauseCast, which will take you to our Patreon. Patrons get a little shout out every week, and when we have bonus content, such as sometimes we have spoiler casts, interviews. I sent an email to patrons last month about an interview that I would like to do with Too Mellow, and I still have that cooking. I haven't actually sat down to do the pitch for that yet, though. So we will. I'll be trying to get that up as soon as possible. That might be kind of a more October thing because we're already midway into September. But when we have bonus content like that, it'll go up on Patreon first, and you get a shout out every week. And every month you also get a little you'll get a little message on the show. So right now, and I'm gonna I will pull up the list of patrons really quick. So forgive me for that.
I just got spooked by something. I'm really hoping he doesn't jump off my lap and take my headphones with him again.
Oh,
he does that sometimes. It's real bad.
Thank you.
Oh, he's standing on the desk.
Thank you to our patrons, Residoke, PD, Noah Holmes, Laminated Moth, Ash Yee, and Allerdrain for their continued support of the show.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we super appreciate it. We'd like to hit $15 by the end of September, because that would mean we can pay all our hosting costs with just the Patreon stuff, and that would be amazing. So yeah, if you can help that out, please do. If you want to help us out as well, you can go and review the show on Apple Podcasts, and you can find our show at bit.ly/PauseCast iTunes. You can find the show on Twitter as well, at PauseCast Show, where we tweet about the latest episodes. Mark, you are online. Where can people find you?
Before we do that, I kind of want to add a bit to the ending segment, because It's been really nice having people in the Twitch chat this time, right? So if you want to listen to the show live, we stream it at, now hopefully I get the URL right, live.bird.school.
That's accurate.
Yep. We start at 8 p.m. on Thursdays.
Yep, 8 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time. We should be clear.
So, yeah, come along. It's really nice having people in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to have you at our live kind of broadcasts. I also stream independently of that. And I usually have an after show afterwards if you are able to be up super late.
Go on, do your online stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, where can people find you online, Mark?
Okay, so I'm on Twitter at HonestUniverse, and I blog as well, though not about video games, at honestuniverse.com. And you? And
you can find me online at bird.school, or at Cockatiel Cutie, if you'd prefer to get there that way. And you can find me on Twitch at live.bird.school, where I stream on Monday, Tuesday alternating. I've been streaming Hitman, which has been super fun, as well as Thursday, and I stream on Saturday as well. So that's PauseCast for this week, isn't it? Music. Thank you. Thank you to Leon for the use of our theme song, Honey Milk Island. Find it at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.